Okay, so we begin here. A work she had to do on page number 19. This is where we begin today. Yeah, who would like to read?
I will go. Yeah, I'll
Yes.
go. A work she had to do, a word to speak, writing the unfinished story of her soul in thoughts and actions graved in nature's book. She accepted not to close the luminous page, cancel her commerce with eternity, or set a signature of weak assent to the brute balance of the world's exchange.
Yeah, just a second. I'm just finding. Uh, yes. So she had a work. Savitri had a work to do. A work she had to do. A word to speak. She had to change this iron law of death on earth, writing the unfinished story of her soul in thoughts and actions engraved in nature's book. She accepted not to close the luminous page. Now, this appears very, 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 very painful in if we look at Savitri, what Savitri is going on. But for her, this is a luminous page. She is going to get much deeper and deeper in touch with her true strength, a strength which usually lies just masked and covered, and because it's not needed in day to day affairs. Only when we are struck with a lot of tragedy, a big challenge, does this strength rise up and we can access the strength, the divine strength lying within us only, nowhere else. So Savitri accepted not to close the luminous page, cancel her commerce with eternity, or set a signature of weak assent. She's not going to do this little cheap bargain. She's not going to do that. She's not going to cancel this commerce with eternity. She's in touch with the immortal. She's not going to break that bond with the immortal and do this bargain towards mortality. She's not going to do that. To the brute balance of words exchange. We also read earlier, in the earlier few lines, nature's harsh economy. Nature, as if it keeps on balancing. थोड़ी सी खुशी थोड़ा सा गम, it keeps on balancing. थोड़ा सा, you reach a few heights of peace and in meditation, and then comes, lurking around the corner comes pain, or some other shadow, some ignorance comes. So this is what nature is. The nature's process is tardy and slow process. But soul, being in touch with our soul, can actually reverse the process of nature, or even go beyond, go past that process of slow process of nature. So she is not going to sign this weak assent to the brute balance. It's a cruel balance. It's cruel. Her love is taken away from us to the brute balance of the world's exchange. Yeah, please just keep sharing any thoughts that come on these lines. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can read further. Would like to read?
Alva, a
Yeah.
force in her that toiled since earth was made, accomplishing in life the great world plan, pursuing after death immortal aims, repugned to admit frustration's barren role, forfeit the meaning of her birth in time, obey the government of the casual fact, or yield her high destiny up to passing chance.
Yeah. A force in her that toiled since earth was made. Now, this is referring to the life force. If you remember, we have discussed the story of creation many times, that is presented by the mother. How out of the one that was, the only one that was, from him originated this Chit Shakti, consciousness force, and who created the universe further, who created the manifestation. And then those five forces that converted and interchanged into their anti-divine elements. So that force, the life force, the Chit Shakti, consciousness force, a conscious force, a force in her that toiled since earth was made. That force, which is present on earth since the time earth is made, accomplishing in life the great world plan, that force which has been charting the ways through world's plans, whether we are aware of it or not aware of it, that force has been in action since the beginning of earth, pursuing after that immortal aims. Even after death, we think that we leave the body and the game is done. It's not done. It still continues. The force carries on the work. Immortal aims. Even after death, the immortal aims go on. The game doesn't stop after death. Repugned to admit frustration's barren role. Now, this force is alive in Savitri. This is not dead in Savitri. And this force, repugned is coming from repugnant, one which is, it's disgusting. This force uh, felt really disgusted to admit to this frustration. What is the frustration? When a man's vision fail, what do we land up doing? We feel frustrated. Oh my God, it did not happen. How, what is the way out? One feels frustrated, one loses all the sight, one can fall in depression. So this force in her, this conscious force in her refused, in fact felt disgusted to admit to frustration, that frustration which a normal human being goes through when our plans fail. This force is not going to admit to that frustration. Frustration's barren role. No, a frustration does not do much to us. We are in, as if we are, in a vicious trap, like a daldal of frustration. We can neither go ahead and not gain anything in that moment of being frustrated that my plan has failed. So this force is not going to let her admit to this frustration of losing a loved one, for example, and being frustrated about it, and forfeit the meaning of her birth in time. She is not going to lose sight of her meaning, why she is born in the very first place. What is the purpose? Obey the government of the casual fact, or yield her high destiny up to a passing chance. This ordered chance we read earlier also, that as if all the events in our lives are randomly happening by chance. Yet this chance also has a rhythm, ordered chance we read earlier. She is not going to leave her destiny to this chance. That it was a chance event that I lost someone who I loved, and just yielding on to that. She's not going
Monica,
to.
can you play?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, yes,
Can you please
please.
go through the first three lines again, please?
Yeah, yeah. A force in her that toiled since earth was made, accomplishing in life the great world plan. So, this force in her, which is the force of Chit Shakti, as we call, Uh, Chit is consciousness and Shakti is the force which manifested itself out of Brahman, that which only is. When Brahman wanted to create a manifestation, it manifested this force out of himself, which was called Chit Shakti, which is called Chit Shakti. And he asked Chit Shakti or Aditi or the mother that, you go ahead and take forward this process of creation. So it was this force that led everything into motion. That motion came from Chit Shakti. So this force in her is alive. This force that toiled since earth was made, accomplishing in life the great world plan. All the world movements have been directed by this force. Pursuing after death immortal aims. And even when the body dies, we think that the game is over. The game does not get over. The force, this life Shakti, the Chit Shakti, continues its work even after the mortal death. So this force felt disgusted because Savitri is in direct connection with this force. This force is not going to admit to frustration of this failure of, for example, whatever Savitri had thought or dreamt with Satyavan. She would not forfeit the meaning of her birth in time. She would not lose a sight of it, and she would not obey to this destiny, this government of casual fact. This, okay, this is a fact, this one has to go through it. Yeah. And that's why this also reminds me of Kabir's Doha, when we read that she is not going to lose sight of her meaning of her birth in time. We cannot allow any circumstances to lose sight of why we are born. Circumstances do become painful, circumstances do become really, really heavy. Yet one has to rise again and again. As Kabir says, Karna re hoye to karle re sadhu. थारा माणक जन्म दुहेलो है लख चौरासी में भटकत भटकत थारे अब के मिले महेलो है. So Kabir says, that which you came to do it now in this birth. Karna re hoesu karle re sadhu. Thara manak janam duhelo hai. It, you get it really after a long time. लख चौरासी में भटकत भटकत तेरे अब के मिले महेलो है. You have got a palace. This human being, the human body has been referred to as palace. You've got a palace now. Don't waste this birth at least. So Savitri is not going to waste her chance. Yeah. Yes, would like to read?
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
In her own self, she found her high recourse. She matched with the iron law her sovereign right. Her single will opposed the cosmic rule. To stay the wheels of doom, this greatness rose.
Yes. So in her own self, she found her high recourse. She did not have to seek, she did not even think of seeking any other external help. That was her greatness. She did not, ask that this pain may be lessened. In her own self, she found her high recourse. She matched with the iron law her sovereign right. As if the law is strong, then I am also strong. That which does not kill makes you stronger. She matched her her birthright, her confidence in her birthright, that yes, I can claim that. I can claim immortal bliss. It's my birthright. She matched with the iron law her sovereign right. Her single will opposed to the cosmic rule, opposed the cosmic rule of law of birth and death. She opposed that single rule, the cosmic rule, by her single will. Now, this will that Savitri is portraying now is different from our day-to-day mind-born will. This will is psychic will. It's coming directly from the soul. And that's why it's backed with inherent Shakti. It's backed with a lot of power. And that's why she does not need any other assistance. What can be a greater assistance than the divine in himself, than the Shakti herself? To stay the wheels of doom, this greatness rose. As if there is a big, imagine there is a big, like a tank, like a heavy army tank moving forward, a high, heavy locomotive to stay the wheels of doom, life, death, this locomotive that is coming on and on and on. To stay that, to put a hold on that, this greatness rose. The greatness in Savitri. Yeah. Now, man, we are a creature of circumstance. Whatever circumstance gives us, we kind of, get a reaction in our being according to that. Yet, deep down in us, there shines this strength. Deep down in us, locked as if, hidden, there shines this tremendous light, knowledge, strength. All that is deep down. It's not on the surface. It's not on the surface owing to the ignorance that we are veiled in. We have a strong wall of ego around us to keep on, kind of masking that light. And to the extent that we take poise in that deeper being, to the extent that we move more and more inwards in our life, we become used to this light. We become used to this strength. We are able to access it in day-to-day activities. So this has been referred to, in Gita also as para prakriti and apara prakriti. So I'm referring to chapter 7, verse 4, just taking the English translation this time, where Krishna says, this prakriti of mine is divided eightfold: earth, water, fire, space. These are the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, space. And he adds on three more elements: mind, intellect, and egoism. So man, buddhi, or ahankar. These are also elements of prakriti only. This is eightfold prakriti, apara prakriti, kind of an inferior level of prakriti that Krishna refers to Arjun in Gita, chapter 7, verse 4. And in verse 5, he says, O mighty armed one, this is the inferior prakriti, apara prakriti. Know the other prakriti of mine, which, however higher than this, which has taken the form of individual souls and by which this world is upheld. So that is also prakriti only, that Krishna is saying, Shri Krishna is saying that also no other prakriti of mine. It's a higher kind of a prakriti, but that's also prakriti. And that's called para prakriti. Krishna is not referring to this para prakriti, that which is of a higher sort, as the Brahman himself. It's not there yet. So we have these five elements of which we are formed: earth, water, air, space, and fire. Then we have three more: man, buddhi, ahankar, the ego, the mind, and the intellect, the discerning, the vivek. And why is this called prakriti only? Because all this can be seen. We can observe our movements of ego. I can observe my thoughts. I can observe the movements of my intellect. I can observe my ego, the ego when it's in movement, I can observe that. So all which can be observed is referred to as Prakriti. And that which watches all this, and that is why being aware of our movements has been given so much of importance. Being conscious of our day to day thoughts that go on, emotions, how they put us up and then down and here and there, how they throw us here and there. To observe their movements has been given a lot of importance by masters. Keep observing, keep observing. How do you do? How do you go about the day? A lot of every master, almost even mother, used to say that I keep on observing my inner movements, and what can be more entertaining than that? So that which watches all this is Para Prakriti, as referred to in Gita. Now, once we become more and more established in this witnessing aspect of ourselves, which is also Prakriti, we become a bit detached from the movements of the five elements and my mind, my thoughts, my feelings, and the ego and the intellect. I become a bit distant from them. I am not them. I do fall a prey of on and off being identified with that, and I also see that. So there is a seeing aspect, and then there is a kind of a doing aspect, one things which are done and one which sees, again referring to that story in Upanishads where there are two birds on the same tree, one eats the fruit and enjoys and the other watches, and these are both parts of Prakriti, apara Prakriti and para Prakriti. When we go more and more into the witnessing aspect, slowly the witness himself dissolves in the Brahman. But for us, for our practical purposes, I think if we can only do the witnessing and keep on doing that, keep on observing our movements, that actually brings a lot of benefit, because then no movement can actually pull me really down, and no movement can actually pull me really up, because I am a bit distance from them. It's not that they will not be bothering me, but the bother will become lesser and lesser and lesser. Yes, anything at this?
This para and apara, like I
Yeah,
had also read about it. So
yeah,
para basically they said was anything that is that is my own nature, like that's taking me to my true self. Like
yeah,
जैसे in a way vijatiye and jatiye, as in कि that is my own jati, like it's coming from me and taking me to me, and
yeah,
para is the opposite of that. And the other thing that I heard was that, these three things that you mentioned, the mind, intellect, and I forget the third one. What was it
the
after the
mind,
five?
intellect and ego,
ईगो
ahankar.
यस. तो बेसिकली वी फील कि वो जो पहले के पांच है वो तो बेस हो गए, एंड दीज थ्री आर समथिंग हायर, है ना.
Yeah,
बट लाइक यू वर सेइंग कि ये भी एक स्टेप है, एज इन वी कैन नॉट से कि ओके दिस इज मच हायर देन दोज थिंग्स,
yeah,
and these are also kind of steps on a ladder that will take us somewhere. But
yeah,
a lot of us, a lot of times, just get stuck in this क्योंकि I'm at a level of mind or intellect or ego तो रहता ही है. So it's somehow I'm at a higher level of operations. So
yes,
that's like they're actually all kind of trash, and one just needs to transcend and transcend and transcend. So yeah,
yes, yes,
so
beautiful.
that's
I think intellect is very catchy. It's a known fact that we get trapped in mind and ego. But even people who call themselves as intellectuals, because there we have this discerning kind of what we call as vivek, even that is also a part of Prakriti. So that is, like, the traps are so many, and if we are not vigilant, we just see ourselves. I see myself, getting stuck again and again. Yeah.
And again, the catch is because mind and intellect is what we feel makes us vigilant, है ना? So
Mm.
it's very hard to kind of step back and think, oh, here also there is a dip, here also there
Yeah,
is a ditch
yeah,
that कि मतलब बुद्धि चित्त अहंकार काइंड्स कि इसमें से भी निकल के इट्स लाइक अगेन कैन बी ट्रैप्ड इफ वी गेट स्टक कि मेरी बुद्धि मेरा है, यू नो, काइंड ऑफ इंटेलेक्ट लाइक से।
Yeah. Yes. So our practical purpose is, if we can continue doing, just being observant to my movements, it does not matter where I go. I may be feeling jealousy. Can I observe jealousy? What happens to me in jealousy? What happens when I am full of hate? What happens when anger is happening? And then one actually, one feels a bit distanced, a kind of a bit of distance from the very fact of happening, whatever is happening. So
So you mean, Monica,
yeah, yeah,
just observe and then leave it just there, like you don't interfere with what's going on, like
yeah, 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 yes. If one can do that, it's really beautiful. We all have experienced that once in a while. And I see that many a times we keep on also, we are observing, yet in that observation there is a judgment going on whether this is a
oh
right action.
yes, yes, yes,
Right?
yes.
Oh my God, I'm
True.
jealous. Oh my God, I'm angry. These kind of
Yes,
judgment.
yes,
Yeah.
very true, very true.
So one has to be again, even become, maybe take a step further back and be aware of this judgment that is continuously going on. That this judgment never stops. Also, this is also another observation. Yeah. So observing the observer as if there is a chain that we have to go back and back and back and back. Like as if there is like clones of me standing in line, and I am just receding in that line, in that queue in which I am standing, observing the observation, and that observing the observer having the observation, and that going back and back and back and back, and is in as much capacity as we can do, because sometimes we are able to do much, sometimes we do it in a hindsight, an event has happened, and then I am able to reflect, because the event when it was happening was so unconscious that I was not able to have hold on it. So that can also
I
happen.
think I think अभी तो majority of the time यही होता है,
Yeah.
when the event has passed, then only you become aware, oh I
Yes.
shouldn't have done this, I should
Yeah.
have reacted like this, I should have done this, but
Yeah.
वो तब हो चुका होता है, like
Yeah. Yeah. And there is also this, beautiful thing that comes here, which I would like to maybe shortly touch upon. So when we are talking about the witnessing aspect, which is the para prakriti, and which is watching the apara prakriti in action, still there is a participation, there is still an involvement, that I am the one who sees, I want to see, I want to observe. Now when this participation is there, that is what we call as prakriti. Prakriti is a participative force, it participates, while Brahman or Purusha is a passive force, it does not participate. So ultimately, the witnessing aspect merges itself into the Brahman, which means I'm not even interested in witnessing, because everywhere is my play only. Like I am the one who is everywhere. So who would want to see what? Because when I'm saying I am seeing something, it would mean that there is something separate from me that I am seeing, right? So right now, how we exist as a human being, we have divisions in ourselves. हम खंडित हैं. तो यहाँ पे देखना बनता है, यहाँ पे जरूरी है observation. But when this witnessing aspect is a true witnesser, the true witness would not even participate in this game, because what is there to witness when all is what I am, right? So there is no division, there is no separation. Yet, having said that, as long as we are separated beings, we are divided, not unified, we need to have this observing aspect, so that we are, able to figure out our own workings of the being, how this being functions. Yeah. So I went into this depth because when I was going through these lines, that in her own self she found her high recourse, and how would she, how does that strength come into being? That strength comes into being when we get into a deeper poise within ourselves. That deeper poise is what I was referring to by talking about, the nature of prakriti, and with the witnessing and the witnesser dissolving in the Brahman. Yeah. Okay. So maybe this lines in pink can read.
At the unseen's knock upon her hidden gates, her strength made greater by the lightning's touch, awoke from slumber in her heart's recess, it bore the stroke of that which kills and saves.
Yeah. So at this knock on her door, Savitri's door, at the unseen's, in capital, U is capital, unseen's knock, that which cannot be seen. I think this is really beautiful because this is how every experience in our life comes. If we are able to see that, it is a knock on our door. Especially the experiences which are full of challenge, which are full of darkness, which are full of, this tumultuous happening in our lives. At the unseen's knock upon her hidden gates, as if somebody is asking her to open her treasures up, her strength made greater by the lightning's touch. So this lightning, as if did not kill her and made her stronger. This lightning of Satyavan's death, this touch of death in her life, her strength made greater by the lightning's touch, as if it was trying to awake it from slumber. Awoke from slumber in her heart's recess, it bore the stroke of that which kills and saves. Now, as if a new force, a force so far untouched, is rising up in Savitri at this unseen's knock. It is rising up from sleep. Why rising up from sleep? Because so far it was unnecessary, it was not needed. In day to day activities, we don't need much of strength, we don't need much of bravery and valor. Everything is mechanic, everything is kind of, put in proper boxes. We don't need much navigation there. Just the mechanical routines are enough to make us move. Yet when we challenge ourselves each day with something new, which lets us cross our boundaries, there this force has to get awakened. Otherwise one cannot go on. It's too much for a mortal being. Awoke from slumber in her heart's recess, in the depths of heart. And mother refers to this as when she shares this points, the 11 points about awakening the soul within, awakening the inner light within. Mother talks about this, that in the depths of your heart, in your inner heart, lives this light which is forever burning. Get in touch with that light, mother says. Use the pain to get in touch with that light. Don't misuse the pain. Don't let the pain go waste, the pain in your life. And everybody has pain. It's just that we are good at hiding. We are good, kind of pretentious human beings now by the time we are adults. It bore the stroke of that which kills and saves, referring to the stroke of death. Death can kill and death can save. That which does not kill me, makes me stronger, or it saves me. Why? Because that which cannot kill me, it gives me so much of pain, so much of pain, that in order to get rid of that pain, in order to find an ease in my life, I will have to get in touch with this deeper essence which lies masked in the depths. जैसे खोदना पड़ता था ना पहले के जमाने में, ट्रेजर है तो उसको खोद खोद के निकालना है. That is a metaphor. We also have to use all these challenges in our lives to khodo this treasure and dig it out, kind of. Otherwise we don't have that intensity to do the digging. In a normal day to day, the mechanical routines, we don't have this intensity. So it's really a blessing that pain comes to awake us up from this slumber, so that we can access that inner light that has been given to us. Yeah. And death, I already covered it earlier also. It bore the stroke of that which kills and saves. So death is always a threat to life. Life wants to continue. Life wants to continue itself, multiply itself, perpetuate itself. Yet death puts an end to life. It appears almost like evil. Yet, however, in our stage, in the human collective evolution where we are right now, we live in so much of ignorance. If not for death, we will just continue doing the acts in ignorance, if not for the stop put on us by death. So, in such kind of a collective state of evolution where we are in right now, death is a necessity. Only when we are moving forward in our evolution, and we are becoming more and more conscious of our divine origins, would maybe a point come in, I don't know how many years, 100, 200,000, maybe, I don't know, more, that death is not needed, because whatever is manifesting is the divine itself. The ignorance has been taken off. But I don't know, we seem to be just too far away from that in our collective consciousness at the moment. Yeah. Any thoughts? Okay, so maybe these last few lines, today we'll have a shorter session, so just last few lines.
Across the awful march, no eye can see, barring its dreadful route, no will can change. She faced the engine of the universe. A heart stood in the way of the driving wheels. Its giant workings paused in front of her mind. Its stark conventions met the flame of a soul.
Beautiful. Yeah. So this march of nature, this continuing march of nature, it just destroys whatever needs to be destroyed and doesn't care much for life. Nature, in its movements. Across the awful march, no eye can see. Barring its dreadful route, no will can change. She faced the engines of this universe, of the universe. So Savitri now stands as if in opposition with this whole movement of nature as it goes on and on and on and on in a mechanical manner, which we have already discussed. The law of duality, the law of karma, it just goes on and on and on. She is now facing, how beautifully this image comes. She faced the engines of the universe as if there is a huge machine, a mechanical, like a robotic machine, which is going on, and she is now barring its way, that no, I will not allow this to happen to me. A heart stood in the way of the driving wheels. Its giant workings, the workings of that mechanical robotic machine, its giant workings paused in front of a mind. Its stark conventions met the flame of a soul. This is what is strength in us. This is what is beautiful about us. This strength of the soul, the strength of the mind which is connected with the soul. This is what is beautiful. This has to be nurtured. And all these painful experiences in our life, all the tragedies, the challenges, the losses, the grief in our life, all that has to be used as a raw material, like as if I'm using a digger almost. All the intensity has to be used to unmask this flame within, which burns in each one of us. Yeah. Anything here? Yeah. One of the there was this person, Gurdjieff. I don't know if you have heard of it. Him. He used to say that not every human being has a soul. Because if you have a soul, yet you're not conscious about it, what is the purpose of calling you having a soul? So we are as good as a dead human being if we are not consciously in touch in as much as capacity we can, because gradually we become more and more ripe to have more and more light in our life. But in as much as capacity as we can be in touch with this luminosity within, without shame, without any guilt of any sort of what the past deeds done, and we all have our own shares. Are we using all the life lived so far to find the beauty that we truly are? If not, we cannot be called as a human being. Because we may have a soul, but if I am not consciously in touch with my soul, I am no more than an animal, even lesser than an animal. The kind of activities that we do, even lesser than an animal. An animal is at least in alignment with his prakriti. Our prakriti is, our alignment, our true center is the Atman, is the soul. And if we are not centered there in as much capacity as one can, we cannot call ourselves even a human being. That's what Gurdjieff used to call that not every man has a soul. Yeah. So I think from my side, it's enough today. Any comments would like to share, then you can share. Okay. So thank you in that case. Thanks for joining. And thank you, Nishuji. She coaxed me to kind of do the session today. I was not going to do the session, but thankfully for her, we did the session. At least we have this recording. If she's interested, she can watch. Yeah. Thank you.